Good morning. Let's have a look at yesterday's Champions League and Championship football. Could have been a far more profitable day than I presented to you on Telegram. I picked up a couple of plays which I mentioned in the daily bulletin. But let's have a look through. Don't forget, days like this, make sure you're with matches of importance. So arguably we could have laid the draw second half Bayern Munich, Man United. And we could have laid the draw second half Copenhagen, Galatasaray, arguably. Lens and Sevilla had plenty going for it, didn't it? Sevilla had to win. We did profit from the equaliser, but we didn't get the late winner for Sevilla, and it was very close. Sergio Ramos should have nailed it with a late shot from about 12, 13 yards. Didn't. A few dead rubbers. Inter Milan, Real Sociedad, for example, you don't play. But having said that, Union Berlin, Real Madrid, I actually started writing this out on Telegram for you. My wording was, this is a dead rubber, but at 1-0 Union Berlin. Real Madrid's in-play stats were superb. I just mentioned you might want to take a risk, but by the time that was done, I was umming and ahhing about sending it because it was a dead rubber. And we got the 1-1. We also got a 2-2 that you could have got involved in late on. And looking at the players that Real Madrid had out, wow. Joselu, Rodrigo Bellingham, Luca, all the big boys out, even though they don't need to win Real Madrid. Union Berlin arguably had something to play for, possibility of third place. But that was one, up to you if you played it or not. You have to take a hit if it doesn't work out because it's a dead rubber for Real Madrid. But the in-play stats were emphatic. I suppose if I looked at team news, I would have gained a little bit more confidence and made a couple of profits. Would have had 2 trades out of that match. But discipline. English Championship. We've got the lay the draw here. We've got the lay the draw in the West Brom match. And this is a perfect scoreline for a lay the draw second half. 0-2, of course. But don't tend to wait for 0-2. I tend to just look at the 1-0. If we've got a decent enough profit, having laid the draw second half, go up and take it. This is the one which should have made you really big money, which indeed it did make me, but I didn't pass it on. I think I made 140 quid out of this going into the +1 market for Swansea +1, which was at about 1.5 odds. It was very high. But I did cover the 1-0 for Stoke. Why did I do that? Well, let me take you to yesterday's research. This is what frustrates me about doing these sessions. Do I pass this on or not? I should have passed it on, shouldn't I? It's very frustrating when I'm umming and ahhing like this. And it's clear in the research. Let's have a look at Stoke and Swansea. Let's have a read. My conclusions there. 2 0-0s and 4 consecutive defeats recently for Stoke. 2 consecutive home defeats. Stoke have failed to score in the last 3 matches, i.e. they're leading 1-0. Are they really going to score 2 consecutive goals? 20th against 16th. Big gap in form for Stoke, yet to play 12th to 22nd at home. So therefore, are they going to find 16th in the league more to their liking? Only 2 wins since the 21st of October for Swansea, but that needs a context. They're unbeaten home and away against 15th and lower, 4 wins and a draw against 11th and lower. Scored and conceded in the last 5 matches, scored in the last 7 away. That was the stat to take into this match at 1-0 to Stoke. Got a 1-1 for the Swans and a pretty decent return. So that was a frustration yesterday. Elsewhere, not much else doing. League One, didn't have a strong opinion. 2.55 the favourite. Put that to bed. FA Cup, there was very little to interest. We did lay Newport County at 0-3. Barnet did make it 1-3, and you could have made a marginal gain there. My green screen was looking at 13 quid just for the 1-3, from 0-3 to 1-3. Barnet, odds on favourites, as you can tell. Getting involved at 1.1, not going to cost you anything really, is it? It's about a 9-1 return if you don't trade and it's profitable. Premier League Cup. Oh, guess what? Over 2.5 goals. Has that ever happened before in these under 21s? Well, I'm being a little sarcastic. Of course it has. Mentioned it amply the day before. So that was it yesterday. On to today, and it's a carbon copy. The coupon, you must know the dead rubbers. Let's take a look through. Atletico and Lazio. It's a squabble for first place in Group E. So it's not arguably not a dead rubber. I keep mentioning that word safety net. These two have already qualified, so they're not going to be busting a gut, are they? Celtic and Feyenoord is a dead rubber. Group F. Dortmund and Paris Saint-Germain is another squabble for top spot. It's not necessarily a must-win again. Both sides, Dortmund are through to the round of 16. They will finish first place if they avoid defeat. So Dortmund only need a draw to go top. Paris Saint-Germain will go through to the round of 16 as group winners if they beat Dortmund. Newcastle, AC Milan, these two teams must do their bit and hope that Paris Saint-Germain do not win. Newcastle go through to the round of 16 as group runners-up if they beat Milan. Paris do not beat Dortmund. Newcastle will finish third and enter the Europa League playoffs if both they and Paris win or if Newcastle draw. So plenty of permutations for the Geordies welcoming AC Milan to St James's Park. Wow. Fans are going to be mental as usual. Superb set of fans up in the northeast. Group H, Porto against Shakhtar Donetsk. Porto only require a draw. Shakhtar need to beat Porto. So we've got conflicting need here. Lens yesterday against Sevilla, you could tell they were playing for the draw throughout. Hardly ever ventured into Sevilla's half, soaked up a lot of pressure. Did get a penalty to open the scoring, but note with Porto that might change their attitude against Shakhtar Donetsk. Royal Antwerp against Barcelona. Barcelona have a small squabble over first place to motivate them. They've already qualified. Looking at the English Championship, Cardiff against Birmingham. 1.85 favourite Cardiff. Lay any second half 0-0. 16 out of 20 goals conceded away by Birmingham have come second half. 5 0-0s at half time away for Birmingham, none at full time. And it's the same story for Cardiff. 5 0-0s at half time at home, none at full time. So carte blanche to take on any 0-0 second half. We should be expecting second half goals here. So says the seasonal form. 8 consecutive away defeats for Birmingham. No, you'd be favouring Cardiff on that basis. 6 wins and a loss at home against 14th and lower. Cardiff, they're playing 17th today. So you would be favouring the Welsh side. Coventry against Southampton, 2.45 the favourite. As I did yesterday, this is an added bonus. We'll take a quick look through this match, although I don't and I wouldn't encourage you to research these types of matches. The market's already told you 2.45 the favourite. They're saying, we haven't got a clue. We just can't unpack this match pre-match. I think the best idea is to wait for in play. We're going to have to wait for soccer stats as well. It's not loading at the moment. It does tend to have these issues. And if that's the case, there we go. As soon as I have a go, it comes alive. You're going to get some sticky patches with soccerstats.com, particularly if you've allowed the adverts in. The website's just incredibly slow, as you can see here. It's because they've got all these damn adverts in the background. So let's view stats and matches for both teams. Normally with these 2.45 or thereabouts, the favourite, the market's quite simply saying, I can't unpack this one. Well, what do we see? We've got 2 consecutive home wins for Coventry, keeping clean sheets. 3 wins, 3 clean sheet wins in the last 4 matches for Coventry. Their only recent loss since the 11th of November, coming away against Ipswich. As far as the Saints is concerned, don't need Matt Letizia. They're unbeaten since the 30th of September, albeit 3 score draws in the last 4 away matches. That might be the reason that Coventry are not discounted today. Really solid Saints form. no defeat in 12, scored in the last 13. So you'd expect a goal from the Saints this evening, but 7 consecutive under 2.5 goal home matches for Coventry could keep things a little quiet for the Saints. I think Leeds lost yesterday, so that will be a motivating factor for Southampton today. One of their fellow newly relegated teams failing. This is 15th against 4th, and it's quite damning for Coventry, really. They've yet to win against the top 7, home or away. But that said, they haven't met the top 4 at home yet. But they did fail to score against 5th and 6th. So you'd be favouring the Saints on that basis. Southampton, in playing 15th today, they are actually unbeaten home and away against 13th and lower. So they'd be looking fairly confident this evening. Working our way down, just looking at the goal times, if we get, as you can see, soccerstats.com is not that reactive. 5 goals scored by the Saints in the last 15 minutes of matches might have you a little bit alert if it's 0-0 later on, particularly given Coventry have scored 8 goals, all 8 second half goals at home, 61st minute onwards. So if it's 0-0 at half time, perhaps want to target the 60th minute as an entry point. So for me, a slight nod towards Southampton, but you've got to pay respect to Coventry's 3 consecutive clean sheets at home and their ability to keep under 2.5 goals at home, which might quiet Saints, who admittedly in 3 of the last 4 matches have only managed a single goal. And in their last 3 away matches have only managed a single goal. So they'll need a clean sheet. They're going to get a win if they can't score that second goal today. So a very interesting match, Southampton and Coventry. 2.45 the favourite, as you can see. It's a difficult one to unpack. Leicester Millwall less so. They've only lost 3 matches. Leicester all 1-0 defeats. So that automatically gives us an angle in if Millwall score. If Leicester are only losing 1-0, we can lay over 1.5 goals, cover that 0-1 to Millwall and back Leicester either +1 or match odds. No draw in 10 at home, so if it's 0-0 at half time, you might want to take on that 0-0, given 0-0 is a draw, of course. 5 0-0s at half time at home for Leicester, none at full time. As for Millwall, they're yet to beat the top 12 side. Did concede 3 goals against second and third away, so it doesn't look very good for Millwall this evening. No one likes them, but they don't care. Looking at Norwich against Sheffield Wednesday, 1.91 favourite Norwich. 3 wins last 5 matches, but lacking real consistency season long on Norwich. This is 13th against 23rd in the league. 4 out of 4 wins for Norwich against 17th low will have them feeling a little confident. 5 goals conceded the last 15 minutes at home, though, is a slight concern for them. Only 3 wins all season for newly promoted Sheffield Wednesday. 2 consecutive wins now, though. 8 defeats and a 0-0 away against the top 18 is a concern. They're playing 13th today. New manager for Sheffield Wednesday in October. Is his philosophy starting to embed with those 2 consecutive wins? So that will give us something to think about this evening. If we see an improvement from the Owls, it'll be because of that new manager syndrome and the momentum of 2 wins. But Norwich, season long, should fancy themselves. QPR and Plymouth, another new manager at QPR. There's a lot of new managers about. Draw, loss, win recently for QPR. Is that the reason behind the new manager? The solid form? 3 consecutive wins, only a 1-0 defeat. We can't discount further improvement, therefore. Plymouth, well, do their best work at home. 4 consecutive away defeats, no win in 10 away, 22nd against 18th in the league. So it's one where you'd look at QPR momentum coming into this match. The new manager seems to have got a tune out of Queen's Park Rangers. Middlesbrough against Hull, 1.83 the favourite. 5 wins in the last 7 for Borough. Beat Leicester and Preston at home, so they'll be buzzing. Lots of goals before half-time for Borough as well. You might want to factor that in, particularly if it's 0-0 after 20 minutes. No draw in 8 at home, so lay any second half 0-0. Indeed, 5 0-0s at half-time at home, none at full-time. We've seen that stat in pretty much every match. What's the second half goals in the English Championship this evening? Assumed. This might be more competitive than the market suggests. Borough deserved their quote based on 4 wins against the top 9 at home, but Hull threatened 2 goals against 11th and lower away. So watch out. 12th be 8th today. In the Swiss Super League, we got a nice trade out of Zurich at the weekend, so no need to desert them today. They were very eye-catching stats-wise. Watch out for that this evening. Only one win since the 27th of September for Winter Tour. They've scored and conceded in the last 15 matches, so that gives us a possibility of a Zurich equaliser if Winter Tour score first. Only one loss for Zurich. Remain unbeaten away from home. 2 consecutive clean sheets as well. They've not conceded first half away and have led at half-time in 5 out of 7 away. So we'd be favouring the away side today. 7:30 fits in nicely with the Champions League and the Championship. So that's it for today. There'll be a lot more, I think, peripheral football. We can just have a quick look through. Czech Fortuna League. Some familiar names. We've got odds-on favourite Mlada Boleslav at 4 o'clock at home. Got the Championship. Got the FA Cup. Stockport odds-on favourites at 7:45. So that'll just get a look in. Do they deserve the favouritism? Premier League, International Cup. Not sure about that. And the ladies' football, I'm just concerned with the lack of liquidity there. And indeed, the lack of readability. I find it women's football very hard to trust. Just when you expect goals, there aren't any. When you don't expect any, there's a shed load. I can't find any strong evidence to trade the women's game at the moment with any real confidence. But it might get more liquid as the years progress. There's certainly plenty of it about. Women's League Cup this evening. So that's, I don't know anything about the sides, I'm afraid. But we've got plenty of quality football this evening to keep us occupied. I'll see you round and about, probably for the earlier Czech matches at 4 o'clock, and then moving on to 7:45s and 8 o'clock kickoffs. I don't think we have any. Yes, we've got 5:45s, or do we? I'll just check. Yep, we've got 5:45s. Red Star Belgrade and Manchester City is arguably a dead rubber. Leipzig against the young boys as well. Have a look at the previews at soccer24.com. They're extremely well written. They've got a hot stat at the base, which you might want to look at. For example, all but one of Leipzig's last 12 Europa home encounters have seen both teams score on the day. So that's a fantastic stat coming into this match, isn't it? Really good stuff. Young boys already secured their best Champions League finish after a 2-0 home victory at Red Star. Let's have a look. Not sure. Both prefer some rest rather than having to play this inconsequential UEFA Champions League group stage game. So you've got it there. Inconsequential. Dead rubber, Leipzig and young boys. Red Star Belgrade and Man City. I don't think Red Star Belgrade can get out of the bottom. Nothing left to play for. So the 5:45s will get short shrift from me. But we've got 2 odds-on favourites here. And you saw with Real Madrid yesterday, in a dead rubber, their in-play stats lit up. So that would be the only reason I'd get involved. Got to be disciplined, though. If you get involved in a dead rubber and it doesn't go your way, you've only got yourself to blame. Okay? You must focus more on matches of importance. Dead rubbers. There's a psychological switch off as well. Manchester City, having had a really poor run in the Premier League, might rest a few players today. Play some peripheral stars. That's what I would do if I was old Mr. Gladioli. So I'll see you a bit later on. 5:45 will get short shrift from us. They are dead rubbers. Only play if the in-play stats are emphatic. Have a great day. See you throughout the day.